Hi everyone, I'm Madeline Johnson. I'm Sign-Up's Content and Community Manager, and we're back with another Sign-Up videocast. Today I have Lauren Freund on with me to talk all things AI and social media, which is, a very hot, exciting topic. So I'm sure we'll have a great conversation ahead of us. Lauren is the social media manager for Canva, so she has a lot of hands-on experience in the social media industry. Lauren, how about you get us started? Just like introduce yourself, tell us a bit about your current position and how you got into the industry and what you've been up to recently.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me. So excited to be here. Yes, I work at Canva. I'm a social media manager there. I've been there for coming up on 2 years now, which is really exciting. I've been a huge fan of Canva for most of the time that they've been in business. So it's really full circle that I get to work there now, and really exciting to get to talk about, create content for, and launch some of the products that I'm so obsessed with just outside of my work, like as a content creator and as someone who's been in the social media industry for so long. So I create social content everywhere from brand campaigns to product launches to education, partnerships, just like evergreen content. So really across the board. Prior to Canva, I worked at a few different companies, both in-house and both agency side. A few of those have been Shutterfly, Taco Bell. I've done pretty much similar social media things throughout all of my roles. I've always really enjoyed the creative side of things and creating the content, and also balancing that with a analytics point of view of really seeing how our content performs, listening to our audience, making tweaks based on what we're seeing in the numbers. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. Really excited to be here today and talk more about AI, Canva, social media, all of it.
Great. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'd love to start with maybe just a bit of a vibe check for the last year, because obviously I think like AI and machine learning based tools sort of started becoming popular after ChatGPT launched at the end of 2022. So I'd love to hear, like, given this sort of rapidly changing and very exploratory landscapes, maybe what were the biggest changes and difficulties and wins of the year for you and your team in regards to social media?
Yeah. Big question. I think in regards to AI, like you mentioned, used in a consumer sense, just like an everyday person using AI is very new, as you mentioned. It became more common end of 2022, and we're only in the beginning of 2024. So it was definitely, Canva always likes to stay ahead of the curve while also listening to our customers and our audience of what they actually want to see. I think sometimes a mistake any company can make is just trying to stay up with the trends or what other companies are doing and not really listening to what their audience wants, because that's the people who are fueling your company. So I think it was definitely a balance of keeping up with the times, putting a few things out there. We adopted some AI early on in some of our tools, and just constantly monitoring how our audience were using it, how they liked it, how they enjoyed it. Canva really likes to make a visual design platform that's accessible to everyone. And so we didn't want to all of a sudden bombard all of this AI at once in all of our tools, because that's just not who we are. So I would say it was definitely a gradual learning phase, which luckily, our audiences have really been loving our magic tools, which are our AI products. And being able to launch those on social last year was really exciting to me, and getting to explain them and launch them in a very simple, easy to use way that also has very tangible use cases. Something that I've noticed just as an individual with all of this AI coming out from all of these different companies is AI can do so many cool things, but how much of it is actually relevant to your day to day, right? Like, oh my God, so cool. I can do XYZ. It's like, but when am I ever going to need to do that? So that's what's really cool about being able to work on the AI products for Canva is we get to show these very useful use cases, whether it be at, you know, personal use cases on the side, whether it be at your own job, whether it be in education if you're a teacher or student. So I would say that was definitely a huge chunk of learning and the vibe of the past years, just really learning how our audience uses those things and how we can be most relevant to problems or spaces in their everyday life that we could help create solutions for.
Right. I feel like it's a very unique and very cool position to be in as someone who's managing the social media for a company that has come out with you know, new and shiny tool that is also very useful and very, yeah, from what I've seen online, like very well received and very actually useful versus just being cool. And then you get to know how it works, you know, more or less inside out. And also you get to, you know, be in charge of seeing how customers are reacting to it on social media and how people are commenting on it, what people are interested in. So yeah, I'm really curious about like maybe what your strategy has been on marketing the new tool.
Yeah. Starting out, when we first came out with it, obviously we didn't have any user data to work with because it was a secret. We hadn't announced it. So our priority when it came to the launch and putting it on social was definitely, you know, we want the whole reason we named it our Magic AI products is because, or our Magic tools, and a whole Magic Studio is because unfortunately AI has the word and the phrase has just become very polarizing and a lot of people have strong opinions about it. And Canva's space in that was to make sure that we're creating these tools that use AI, but they're tools that's really, like I mentioned before, relevant to your everyday needs and are also very easy to use. So for the launch, we definitely wanted to focus on like, look how easy this is and look how relevant it can be in your everyday life. Like we don't want to just say like, look at this cool thing. It can make song lyrics out of nowhere, which is so fun and really cool. And Canva can do that. But we also wanted to show those relevant use cases of like, if you need to make a presentation deck like 1 hour before a meeting, or if you need to quickly fix this photo and it needs to launch and you need to expand it to a different size, like just really relevant use cases. So that was the strategy when we first launched, is just ease of use and relevancy. And then after we launched and people started to use it, then our strategy was 100% looking at how people were digesting it and using it, because and just like as a marketer, you know, when I'm at Canva and before I've been at Canva, it's so important to me to always look at what our audience is saying, because that's who you're speaking to. And I always think you should just combine like what the objective is to what the audience wants to see. And I think you can always succeed that way. So once they started using it, it was really interesting to see, you know, if there were any pain points, if there were any specific like loves, whether it be a tool itself or a use case for using the tool. You know, like a big one we saw was on LinkedIn, making your LinkedIn profile picture, because you could take a photo of yourself and maybe you weren't dressed in the most professional wear, your background wasn't the most professional, and you can easily make it like that. So that was one of like the really big ones we saw early on of people using it. And even now, you know, like we launched that, it's been less than a year since we launched it. So we're still learning and still seeing how people are using it across so many different pillars, right? There's like the individual who's using it. There's maybe the teacher or the student who's using it. There's maybe someone like me who works for a corporate company and like I can use it on some of my day-to-day tasks. So it's really a fun learning experience for me as well. And I think it's important for us to always leave room to adjust our strategy based on how people are using it and how they're liking it and what they're needing.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I really like how you mentioned like, you know, like sort of the reasoning behind the naming of the tool, which is calling it a magic tool instead of, oh, look, our new AI tool. Because I definitely feel like it is something that's thrown around and then sort of used as a crutch, and then people don't actually explain what, you know, like more of the actual use cases or more of what it could help you do. It's more of a cool buzzy thing. So I definitely
Yeah.
like that. And it makes more sense for a tool that has many use cases and, you know, is sort of magic when you
It
use
is magic. Yeah, totally magic.
no,
I think there's also like this high barrier to entry, or seemingly high barrier to entry, when it comes to AI, especially, you know, I think maybe people of our generation, because we grew up with technology, maybe are less timid to use it. But I think a lot of people, when they hear AI or other technology, they're, I don't know if scared's the right word, but they're just like more hesitant to use it because they don't know if they can. And that's why we also wanted to just really drive home, even in the name itself of Magic Studio, like anyone can use this and this is super helpful and like you should try it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's difficult as well. I feel like you're in a difficult position because Canva has so many different use cases. Like obviously you mentioned, you know, like somebody could be using it in middle school or in high school to make a class presentation, or you could be using it for educational purposes, or you could just be using it to make graphics for a personal project. And I'm wondering, like, given this new tool, how you're approaching creating content to sort of spread the love among the different use cases and your different like possible like client personas.
Yeah, great question. I think there are so many audiences, and it's because Canva is relevant to so many different audiences. We're not just going after them because we're going after them because we know that there is a space for them to use Canva. I think specifically, just being at companies before Canva, getting tongue tied here. Being at companies before Canva, I'm very lucky to now be at a place where we have a well-staffed team, and there are a lot of us on the social team. And I have been at companies before where it's like, you know, 3 people or even 2 people. But luckily, the Canva social team is very well staffed, and so everyone really has their area of focus. And I think that's a really strong way that we're able to conquer all these different audiences and make sure that we're having a balance of, when we show a product or a use case, we're speaking to so many different people. We're speaking to the person who's maybe never heard of Canva and they just want to see some entertaining thing on TikTok. We're speaking to the teacher who like relies on Canva to get through like her yearly lesson plans. We're speaking to, you know, someone who works at a corporate company and maybe they can use our tools to get their work done quicker. And like, so there's so many different ways to use it. And because we have such a well-staffed team, I think that's the best way that we can make sure that we're spreading our resources and spreading our time in social. I feel like a lot of social media managers can relate to the fact that even though there's like about 30 days in every month, that's never enough. And we always need more time slots to post something. So I think that definitely helps us. And of course, we have our own team and company internal priorities. So we go against those as well. But it is definitely very helpful to have a well-staffed team to make sure that everyone can be focused on a pillar and really manage it to its fullest.
No, that's good to hear. I feel like that's sometimes a mistake that you know, Canva obviously has a really large social media following, and I think people are interested to see the types of stuff you guys post. So I feel like that's great that you sort of can divide and conquer to make sure you cover everything you have to cover, both based on internal goals and then based on what you're seeing happen live and what people want more of. So that's awesome. I am curious, obviously, like Canva, since you guys have an AI tool, I wonder, are you guys using any AI powered tools in your own personal work on your team?
Yeah, I mean, I use it all the time. I love it. It's super helpful for me. You know, I shift between a lot of different things in my day to day, and sometimes that can like burn you out. So even if it's something as simple as if I have to write copy for a social post, I'm gonna go to Magic Write to get me started because I'm
Right.
like, I don't even know where to start. And that's the beautiful thing about Canva is it's so good at inspiration, which is I feel like a lot of where we use it from. It's not necessarily like we type something in and our work is done, check, just like everyone. No matter what you type in on Canva or maybe some other AI tools, you have to infuse your own knowledge in there. But it saves so much time just getting you started, or maybe I have to give a presentation on something that I am not as familiar with as I'd like to be. Sometimes it's easy to use Magic Presentation, and then it will like slot out the different sections of a presentation for me and like get me started. I always find that's most difficult. I would consider myself a creative person, but sometimes you just hit that wall or you don't know where to start. So I definitely use Canva in my day to day. Our creative team and our designers use Canva as well to create the content that we actually post. And I'm sure that there's other teams who I maybe don't work as closely with, maybe in like finance or something, that they use it as well. So I think that's really nice to work at a company where you actually use your product, because one, we're coming out with so much stuff so often. It would honestly be a disservice for us to not use our product because we have to learn it and like know how it works. But also it just really helps with the brand pride, because when I get to use something and see how much time it saved me or how helpful it was, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I love this. And then maybe it'll help me like create a social post later, given how much it helped me and how much that impacted me. I'm like, other people need to know about this because I know there's so many other social media managers out there.
I know. Yeah, you become your own social proof, because it is. I feel like when people have I love hearing about how you're using it, and how you're just using it sort of as inspiration. I feel like that's how most people use different tools, is for inspiration, or for maybe researching something that they don't know, or maybe helping them write an outline, or just exploring something they done haven't done before. And I feel like there's like a misconception when people are sort of like, no, like we don't need these new tools. They're taking away like entry level jobs, and they're taking away human creativity. I think there's a misconception that people are just, typing something in and then taking whatever the tool spits out and posting it online immediately.
Yeah.
But that's that's not really the case.
No, 100% misconception. And I know there's obviously a lot of people who think that out there. The way we see it at Canva and the way we use it at Canva is we're able to speed up our processes and help us get going. We have so many talented people who work at Canva from so many different backgrounds. And to give them a tool that just helps them like jumpstart their work and like get their wheels going, or like give them some inspiration, then they can carry out their work and finish it, whether it be, they got inspiration from Magic Write and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to write this copy. Now they can move on to their next task, because the reality is like our tools cannot replace work, but they
Right.
do help people do their work better so that they can take on more, and that we can, as a company, do more and accomplish more. And I think that's amazing. And just comparing using AI now and just magic tools now compared to like a few years ago where these tools weren't there and then didn't exist, I'm like, wow, I could have saved myself a lot of time. And there are obviously a lot of things that technology can never replace a human for. And I think it's so important to be able to utilize those tools in a way that helps you, like that not replaces you, just like helps you. And I think that really lets people do the more important part of their jobs and the part that takes the most brain power. So yeah, it's been incredibly helpful.
Right. Great. Yeah, I'd love to hear, like, obviously with any new tools, and some people might not like it, but given some of the misconceptions about AI powered tools, is there like a way that you're approaching your social media campaigns to either sort of prepare for that, or maybe if people have made comments, just like prove them wrong or show them that that's not the case?
Yeah, we're always monitoring social no matter what. Obviously, AI is one of the things that we're monitoring on social, but anything that has to do with Canva, even in our space, we have an amazing engagement team that's constantly monitoring it to make sure we can stay on top of it. As a company, and just, AI in general, as you mentioned, it's very new to consumers. We have put barriers on our products to make sure that, as much as we can see from right now where we're sitting, like certain things are protected.
Mhm.
As you'll see with anything, it was in the news earlier this week or last week about like Taylor Swift and AI. Like, it's
Oh, yeah.
always a topic of conversation. And I think it's just something that we have to constantly monitor. And I think it's really good for companies when they come out with any sort of product to make sure they're thinking about those guardrails that need to be put in place. So Canva has done that, but also continually monitoring how it's being used and any issues that people are running into. And we do, as a company, monitor that and are constantly trying to improve our product, because you don't know what you don't know. But as long as a company, in any sense, that you're monitoring things and listening to people who are submitting their issues with the product and changing those, I think is the positive way to keep going.
Yeah, I feel like that's very nice. Like, Canva sort of has a collaborative feel to it, so it's nice that you guys can look at what's happening, monitor what's going on in their socials, and then sort of respond appropriately. I am curious, just because I know, like, not necessarily Canva, but I know like other companies have sort of like gone viral for their like nice responses to to customer complaints on social media. So do you find that when people are having issues or questions, whether it's with this tool or with anything else, do they usually come to you on social for a response, or are they looking to more traditional help platforms?
I think from what I've seen, not specifically with Canva, just like with
Mhm.
people's complaints in general, I see a lot of complaints on social media. And I think it's because people want other people to see it. And no
Mhm.
one, the other people aren't going to see your private submission to the customer helpline, like in any company, right? And I understand it. I understand people want other people to see their issue. So to answer your question, yes, I think they often go on social for one reason or another. But I do think it's important because, I haven't worked on the customer service team, but I can imagine from experience at my previous companies, they get backed up with so many messages. So sometimes it is, I don't want to say good or bad, but like sometimes it is sometimes necessary to go on social because people see it very quickly on social. People see news more quickly on social than they do on like their own TV. So people are now going to social, right? So it is important for us to constantly monitor those things. And in terms of the comment back, if it is something that is, really sensitive, then I mean, I work internally. I see that some things come in and
Mhm.
that it needs to be escalated. So I understand people's frustration when they see those nice comments. Working from the inside, I can tell you that it's because it is really important and people are working on it in the back end, and always those people are responded to privately with like a more detailed message.
Yeah.
Working internally, I know that gets escalated, and that's something that like we need to fix in our product immediately. But I can understand as a user, like if I like message like a fashion company or something and I'm like, my zipper broke or whatever, and they're like, sorry to hear that, right? Like, I get the frustration, but everyone be assured that that is something that's definitely being escalated, and that message back is just a like, hold tight, we're working on this.
Yeah, that makes sense. It is always very interesting when people sort of take to social media to make complaints, because on the one hand, it does sort of ensure, oh, like this is gonna go through a different channel than a typical help request. And also, like, the company doesn't want people to see this and know that this has happened, so maybe they'll help me sooner. But also, it's like, that is a completely different person who's monitoring social media, and they're not going to be the one who's actually fixing or addressing your problem. Like, if you're, you know, like, if something happened, like, there's a support team in the background, so that's always
I definitely recommend going to a support team because they are equipped for that. And there is a process. Obviously, if we see something on social, we send it to the right people, but it is quicker to go through customer service just because that is the right path, and those people do know what they're talking about.
Right. Yeah, I'd love to hear just more generally, like, your like maybe fears or worries or excitement about sort of where like AI powered tools are going, both on social media and outside of social media. Like, what your general thoughts are.
Yeah. You know, I think it's just getting started. Like, it's been around for a very small amount of time that I don't think it's easy to identify exactly where it's going. There have been some interesting paths that I've seen it try to go down. I don't know if you've seen the like the AI influencers. That's something like specific. Yeah. Those are really interesting, just having to do with like AI and social. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy. And I would love to see the real numbers behind that, because I'm like, everyone knows this is AI. So like, it's fascinating to me, and it's all psychological. So I don't know how long that road is or if it's stopped, but that was an interesting path for sure that AI and social went down. I think in terms of working for a company or being a social media manager and trying to get posts out there, I think AI is definitely going to be more helpful in creating posts more quickly, because at least on Canva, you know, you can upload certain images and logos and fonts and colors to make sure things are staying on brand. So a lot of times maybe a social team could make a post if the creative team is busy, or if it's like a minor post. So things like that, I think, will be very helpful in getting more content out there, or content out there quicker. Other than that, you know, I hope it keeps going, because at least the things that Canva has come out with have been really amazing and really helpful for all different audiences. So I don't know, we'll see where it goes. It's all very exciting though.
No, I'm also very, very curious to see what happens, because, you know, like you said, it's still in its infancy and we're just sort of figuring out the capabilities, and there are some cooler and more like out there things that have come out, like the AI influencers, like you mentioned. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see also how like consumer perception changes as some bigger as more brands start to, you know, experiment in their own workflows with having different AI tools. Like the AI influencers, I read an article recently. I think at least I think they're all made by brands, or at least some of them are. I don't like the brands.
I haven't seen a brand one. You'll have to send me that. I just saw a random one.
Yeah, I don't know if like the big main. Have you seen Little Michaela? I think that's like the
No.
biggest. She's like the biggest one. She has over 1 million followers on Instagram, and I follow her sort of out of curiosity, and it's because I'm just fascinated, you know, like similarly to you. I'm sort of like, what is this, and why are people taking this seriously? And you know, you have to. I think every single one has a disclaimer in the bio that says like, oh, like it's not like, oh, this. Yeah, it doesn't like say so clearly like this is not a person, but it says like, oh, a digital avatar girl in a fast-paced world, you know, something funny and catchy like that, but clearly saying, oh, this is not a person. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But yeah, I think there are at least a few that are connected in some way to brands, which is like interesting to see what will come of that. So yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious also of your thoughts of, like obviously people don't totally hate the usage of these new tools and these new technologies, because some of the AI influencers have millions of followers. But I'm curious as to your thoughts of how consumer perception of brands that use these tools will be changing as brands start to adopt the AI tools more readily.
Yeah, that's something that's, I mean, it's interesting now. I think it's going to be a lot more interesting as we continue this year. Is AI is such a huge spectrum, right? Like on one end, you have, something that helps you write a catchy caption, like really like low stake, like AI that's super helpful. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have this fake AI influencer that's like telling people to buy a product. Like that's crazy to me. So I think, I stand by what I said before of like, I think AI tools for individuals or for companies is so important to use to supplement your work and to help you with your work. It actually got me thinking with AI influencers that are like from brands or created by brands. At that point, wouldn't it just be like a character? Like, you know how Wendy's has like Wendy, like the girl? At that point, wouldn't it just be like another like Wendy or I'm trying to think of like other, oh, what are they called?
Well, like the
Like
mascots.
mascot.
Yeah, like the Geico Gecko type of
Like that.
thing.
Like if you create an influencer, like an AI influencer as a brand, that's just like a mascot or just like a anyway. So I find that interesting. Sorry, to go back to your question. Yeah, I do think brands should be using it to help supplement their work. And like with Canva, we're really branching out into that B2B like workspace place where we're focusing on everyone being able to stay in one spot and do something. You don't have to move from Google Docs to Microsoft Excel to this, to that, to ChatGPT. Like it's all in one spot, and it helps you collaborate and get your work done faster, more creatively, not necessarily like, let's just have an AI influencer and replace everything. So I think if brands do it the right way, that they'll see really positive results in terms of their creativity and their content and just like time. We've worked with a lot of companies, Reddit and Zoom come to mind, and we've done a few case studies with them, posted on our LinkedIn about like the thousands of hours that they've saved just collaborating on Canva. And sometimes they use our AI products to save time. Sometimes they use our other products. But I hope that's where companies take the AI. I don't think I want to see any more AI influencers. I think it's odd. I don't get it.
No,
And I don't want
too.
consumers to be listening to that stuff.
No, it is. Yeah, I think I agree. I like I use different like various tools to sort of help me brainstorm, help me do outlines for things, or help me do preliminary research. And it saves a ton of time, because sometimes your brain is just a blank slate, especially if you work in a position that you sort of have to innovate and be more creative. And sometimes it just helps to have a first draft or like an outline, even if it's not what you might have come up with yourself, or even if it's totally different from what you end up using. Like it's always just helpful to have, oh, like this is going to inspire me to now create something else. So I agree that I love hearing like success stories like that of because it really just should be a tool, not something totally crazy.
Yeah, I like to see it as it's a tool to help your vision come to life, not to necessarily make the vision, because people are creative, people are talented, they have the vision. So yeah, whether it be for inspiration or, you know, some of our tools, maybe you created a video and now it can like match up that video with music, or maybe you created an Instagram story post and it's performing really well and now you need it like resized for like a 1x1, and instead of like making it from scratch, you can just like hit magic switch and it'll make it a perfect square. Like, it's just things like that that are so helpful, from inspiration to minor things. And like Canva started, you know, as this visual platform, and now we've made our way to visual communications and more collaboration and things like that. And it's really cool. It's going to be really cool to see where the magic products take us, and all the creativity that it can fuel within people, and the inspiration, and also time-saving abilities, because that is my priority. As I've got a lot on my plate, like I want things that can help me move faster and get on to the next thing to create really engaging content.
Right. I feel like given all these benefits, what would you say, just based on your perception, might be like some of the biggest barriers to more like widespread adoption, either from individuals or from companies who are considering like integrating these tools into their organizational workflow?
Yeah, I think our priority is to really show the one-stop shop aspect of it, because with, you know, our workspace, we now have Canva Docs and we have our own version of Sheets, and you can make websites on it. You can create the actual content from there. You can upload any data you have to make data visualization tables or graphs or anything like that. And you can also post directly from the platform. You can brainstorm with people using Whiteboard. Like, we have so many aspects of Canva and so many tools that you can use. And I think our goal, in approaching consumers and companies and, you know, the education space, is really just to show how much easier and simplified it can be using Canva, because we don't want people to change their ways. We don't want to disrupt people's processes of like, oh, well, I work with my team and then we present to this and XYZ. Like, we're not trying to disrupt anything. We want to show that everything you're doing, maybe you're using different platforms, you can have it all in one space and it can be really simplified and really sleek. And so I would say that's definitely our priority when going up against consumers and businesses, to convince them or just show them the positives of using Canva.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah, like given that, I mean, like how people are already starting to use both the Canva tool and other tools, do you have any ideas or predictions maybe of how things will continue to change, either like with AI tools or without AI tools, just like in the general social media landscape?
That's a good question. You know, last year within social, I think it was a big battle between static and video content. And I think TikTok and Instagram flip-flopped every week of like which one they were prioritizing, which one they were showing to their consumers. And at one point, I think we were like, okay, so just images on TikTok, but only video on Instagram. And it was just like all backwards. And so, yeah, so I think, you know, with all of the new social platform, I still consider TikTok fairly new. And then the constant updates on these platforms, like I feel like every other day I read, oh, TikTok is now going to make 3-minute and now 10-minute and now 20-minute video or whatever. And so I think going from there, it's going to be interesting to see where the dust settles, because I feel like it was just throwing out a lot of different things in 2023 and seeing what stuck, and the platforms themselves figuring it out, and then the companies trying to keep up with it and seeing what their consumers want. So moving forward, I think it's really going to be seeing where the dust settles, but also making sure that, you're not trying to win the whole platform, you're trying to win the audience. Like
Mm.
it's a waste of time to try to think like, okay, TikTok is prioritizing this and this, so I'm going to do that. Like your priority shouldn't be to reach every user on TikTok, because that's impossible. And you're just going to end up connecting with nobody because you're spreading yourself too thin. So I think it's important to recognize who your audience is, what they've been interacting with, and sticking with that. And maybe a different audience, maybe like the makeup lovers audience, is really vibing with static images because they like to see before and afters, and everyone knows that. But given what your pillar is or what your industry is, and you're seeing that your audience really loves videos, don't be tempted by like what's trending in some other industry or with some other audience. Really stay close to your audience of what they like to see. And it's important to look outside your industry and see what's working, what's not. But I would always prioritize your own audience, because I think some mistake that companies make is when they want to grow and reach more people, sometimes they abandon their current followers or their current audience. And that audience is like, wait, no, we don't want to see that. We liked the other stuff. So it's definitely this balancing act of making sure that you're taking care of the people who already follow you and already interested, but also taking like a few steps out of your comfort zone and seeing who else you can get interested.
Right. I think that's a great point, that like regardless of what is trending or what is happening with the different apps and what is generally being pushed more, that whether or not your audience likes that is the most important question. Because if TikTok suddenly is pushing, static images, and your audience loves your 3-minute long videos, if you start posting static images, they'll probably be very displeased.
Totally. Yeah, 100%. I always like to say one thing that I learned very early on in my career was this phrase of why share, why care, which I think is so important. Like, why are you sharing this content? Is it reaching one of your company objectives or your team goals, etc.? And then the why care part is like, why is your audience going to care? Like, okay, that's great if your company's objective is to talk about your AI products, but how are you going to communicate it in a way that anyone's going to care? So I think really making sure you're balancing like why you're sharing and why people should care should go into your strategy and like at each and every post.
Yeah, I love that saying. I've never heard that before. Why share, why care? Okay, I'll remember that. I make a post. No, it kind of hits every important thing that you should be thinking about when you post on social media for, when you have growth in mind, which is why are you doing this, and then why will your audience like it or dislike it. Yeah, that's great. I just have one more question, which is I'd love to hear if you have any advice for anyone, whether it's social media professionals or social media users, on how to keep up with these like new tools and technologies, and how to think about and navigate any coming changes as the dust settles.
Yeah, great question. This is not the answer you want to hear, but I'm going to be honest. It's like close to impossible, right? I feel like there's so many updates each and every day, whether it be trends or updates to the platform or a new AI capability or whatnot. Like, so I think first and foremost, I would say like, don't sweat it. You're not going to be able to soak up everything. I would definitely make a lens for yourself of what is the most relevant, what's relevant to you and your company, like making those filters. I think there are a lot of really helpful like emails that I subscribe to that give me like, I think there's like Social Crumb, and like there's all these different ones that just give you the top line. And then from there, you can research more about it. But I think that's really helpful to staying on top of things. And then also just being on social, because sometimes I'll see, oh, this new AI tool, and it's going to change everything, et cetera. And it's like this whole article, but you go on social and for the next 2 or 3 months, you don't see it. And sometimes like things are really big in some medium, like a news article and it doesn't translate to social. And at that point, it comes back to like, why share, why care? Like, no one cared. And like, that sounds harsh, but like, sometimes that's how it is. Like, if people on social don't care, it's not going to get anywhere. So I would say make sure you have those filters and like put in effort to stay up to date and learn things. But also, I think the best way, especially if you're working in social, to stay up to date to what people are actually latching on to is to just like be on it and see what people are doing and see what they're using, the filters and the AI tools that they're using. Because if they're not using it, something happened between like the product coming out and people actually using it and like it not resonating with them.
Right.
So yeah.
No, that's a great piece of advice. Yeah, I think it can be easy to be caught up in all the new stuff that's coming out and purportedly making huge impacts, but in the long run, it's like all the changes are in reality pretty subtle. So there are some important things that happen and things that you might want to pay attention to, but you know, if it matters, then you can find it in a newsletter, or if you're on social, you'll see it there and it'll be self-evident. So yeah, that's great advice.
I think ChatGPT is like a really good example of it. I remember when it first came out and no one was really talking about it for a long time. And I thought it was so cool, but I really wasn't seeing it on social. And later on, you know, Google came out with their own and like Microsoft and everything. And it's interesting, sometimes those tools, they're doing deals with other companies in the background and you don't see it as a consumer right away. And like that company who came out with those tools are giving it to these other big companies to rebrand and make it their own thing. And that's how it'll trickle down to the consumer. So it's very interesting to see, but if you work in social, it's important to see things through a consumer lens. But yeah, sometimes it takes a little bit to see it pop off, and sometimes it just fizzles and it doesn't go anywhere. And that's why it's important to stay on social and see what other people are saying.
So true. So true. Yeah, that's everything. That's everything I have. Thank you so much for the amazing takes, the amazing conversation. Yeah, I will definitely keep an eye on everything that Canva is doing. I've tried out the magic tool like a little bit, but not extensively. But I will be making a new LinkedIn headshot with it, I think, because mine is from first year of college, I think. So it's time for a refresh.
Yeah, try it out. Maybe try on a few. I think you can like tell it which like color shirt you want. Like try out a few different styles. See what works for you.
Oh, perfect. I hope it knows my colors.
Yeah, maybe that's a new tool we have to upload is what do they call it? Like if you're a fall, winter, spring, or summer, maybe that's a new AI product to come to Canva.
Honestly, I would be on there because I can't figure it out. Even with all the TikTok filters, I try all of them. It's impossible.
I don't know what I am. Well, thank you so much. I had a great time speaking about all of this stuff. Always great conversation with you. And thank you for having me.